Hello YouTubers. Well, what am I up to in this video? Well, I'm getting to doing some work on the old Screamin' Demon 450 Timberjack skidder here. I know I didn't get a first startup of the season video for you folks, but sometimes you can't always have the camera handy when you just need to get stuff done. If you got a busy day, that's just how it is. A couple days ago here I moved it up in front of the workshop here because I've got a whole bunch of service work that I need to do on this one. If you've been following some of my videos recently here, you know I've been getting all the service work done on my old International Paylogger skidder. I'm pretty much done now with that one. I have that taken care of. The machine's ready to go. I'm getting a lot of different small maintenance things ironed out on this one that I haven't gotten around to since I bought the machine. A lot of this is correcting stuff that other people's screw-ups that they've done over the years, or lack of maintenance, or everybody puts their own stink on things, so to speak, or whatever, and whether it be bad placement of various attachment brackets or rigging for winch lines and stuff like that, everybody has their own take on it, and some people, well, let's just be honest, everybody has their own way of doing things, but unfortunately sometimes it doesn't work very good. There's usually an accepted standard or a certain practice that works best. That there's little variations here and there that everybody has their own take on, but for the most part there's usually kind of a set standard that everybody for the most part follows when you have things set up. Not always the case, like I say, people kind of cut corners, or some people just don't know any better, and well, they just throw anything together any old way. But unfortunately it makes it very hard to work with a piece of equipment when it's not set up right. I'm not bragging that I know everything. I'm far from it. I try to get that across in many of my videos here on YouTube. I'm not a know-it-all. I interact with many other YouTubers. I'm sure some of you that watch my channel already know me, that pop up in your comments sections. No disrespect meant to anybody. To each our own. We all do things differently in our own regional areas as well. Anyways, enough about that. I'm going to get on to what we're working on here today, and I'll show you here in a second. Okay, what I got going on here with the machine, or what I'm working on right now, is the main winch line rigging on here. Whoever had this machine before I did here did a very poor job in setting up the chokers and the rigging here for this thing. They had way too many chokers for what you can handle on the landing. And now what I mean is, I've got a smaller, I picked out the ones that I'm going to run here, and the ones that are up by the machine, right over there, that tangled mess there, I'm going to be taking that off the main line, because they just have too many chokers on here. They've got something like 14, or I think it's like 14 chokers or something. For those of you that have never worked in the bush, you might say, well, the machine is big enough, it's got the capacity, man, you could pull a hell of a pile of wood. Yeah, you can, but the problem being is when you get to your landing or your site where you're going to drop your load, if you got way too many trees hooked on and way too many chokers hooked up, what happens is when you go to unhook your bell ends here, you can't get them unhooked, because you have a whole load of trees, and what happens is you'll have a whole bunch laying one on top of the other, and you can't get these chokers, you can't get your ends unhooked. You'll have trees laying on top of the other ones. You'll get the ones that are up on top, but if you have others down underneath that pile, a big pile of trees you got laying behind the skidder, you can't get them unhooked. Now, whatever a lot of guys do, you're always going to, even in smaller skids, you're going to get one or two that are caught underneath, or you can't get your bells unhooked, or that's what they call them here. It's called a bell and a knob. So if you can't get them, the ones that are caught underneath, you can't get them unhooked. So what you do is you jump back on the machine and pull your main line back in, and kind of jerk them up or pop them up, or if you have to, you pull ahead a couple 3 feet to shake them loose out of the pile. It's a lot of monkey business. Now, the more trees you have on a skid, the more times you're going to end up doing that, and you're up and down, up and down, up and down off the machine, trying to shake that load loose so that you can untie the rest of your load. Now what usually ends up happening with that is every time you pull ahead, you pull ahead, you pull ahead, then what happens is your trees are scattered further and further and further. Before you know it, half your skid or your load is pulled all the way out across the landing, and then you have to try and push that back to butt all the ends up even. So then what happens then is some of them will slide back further past, and then you're screwing around back and forth, and you're not gaining any time by pulling great big skids. Most guys that I know that tried that ends up it takes you twice as long as if you take a smaller skid and you can jump off the machine and pop off half a dozen. Let's say if you got a 6 or 7 tree skid, that's about all you can usually handle or whatever in medium-sized wood in this part of the world here. Was what this machine might be doing. Like I say, I haven't made a video about that yet, and I will here in the next little while here about why I'm getting all the equipment ready. I possibly have to go and cut a timber contract that I have a long-standing timber sale that I'm guaranteed rights to access the timber. Each area has different setups for their public land cutting agreements. Mine here I got into many years ago. I expanded my cutting rights on public lands here. I had to buy into it, and I did many years ago. I expanded that. I had the opportunity a number of years back here to expand my my timber sale holding. Now what I was doing was getting other guys to subcontractors or other logging subcontractors to do the cutting for me. What I have for timber harvesting is a little bit more than what I can handle, but it's not on a short-term basis, but it's not enough to make a living at a full-time basis. So I'm kind of stuck in an in-between. It's not enough to make a full-time career of it, but just enough too much to do it part-time. So it was just easier to have other guys come in and do the contracting with the pulp mill, with the timber mills, and they'd bring in their own contractors. But I'm not going to get into the individual politics of it, but this past year here, well, more than a couple actually, I talked to a few different contractors that are in the area that do harvesting for the timber mills here, and a couple of them got smart and they want to push me out of my timber sale so they can take over my timber sale by not doing the work for me anymore, or refusing to do the work for the mill. Now what they can do by that is essentially starve you out by backing your wood cut agreements up to the point where it doesn't get done in time, and then you're in penalty type mode or whatever. So I am basically forced to have to go back and cut a portion or a percentage of my timber sale to satisfy the public cutting rights, my timber rights, and to keep the mills happy. So anyways, that's why I'm dragging all the old equipment out of the mothballs, so to speak, and getting stuff set up. Like I say, this machine, I had not set this up to do much timber skidding with it. It was used for road building or trail building, for opening winter trails and opening up landings, stuff like that. This was used as a dozer machine because it has the extra wide blade sweeps that were welded onto it years ago. So it's more of a trail building machine. The riggings on here, like I say, are as it came to me a number of years back. I bought the machine and I just have them on here. They're very, very poorly set up. What I mean by that is these are called your mainline slides here. That's these rings that slide on your main line. Now there's nothing wrong with that. These are good. There's a whole, like I say, a whole whack of them, a whole set of them on here. That is done well, but unfortunately the person that, I don't know who did this. I bought this machine at a big industrial auction, so I have no idea who, the past history and what they did. But as you can see here, what they did was very poorly set up. But what that I mean is these choker ends here where they tie into your rings, technically you should have and then you use what's called these cat eye or cat end chokers here, where it's a loop end. This one they have it directly into a slide, but what you're supposed to use on them to attach them to the slides is like a clevis, or whatchamacallit. This one is a poor example because they got just a rough bolt through it, but you can get these rigging clevises all over, whether it be from line supply companies or even just local hardware supply companies or whatever. Everybody has different strengths and grades and sizes, but this is technically the best compact and cleanest setup.
But for the most part, most of the chokers on here, for whatever reason, the person was, I'm thinking, save a penny and end up spending $1. So he took a whole bunch of these perfectly good, there's some brand new chokers in here actually, and he ended up cutting the cat eye ends off of them, these here, because he didn't want to buy a few clevises, and probably had a bucket of old cable clamps around. So this is what he did, fed each one through the eye and then just used a couple of cable clamps. Now that's not very good. These things slip and they will let go, so the chances of half of these staying attached is not very good. I'm going to end up having to change probably a whole bunch of these chokers out or whatever to get some new ones, but I'm going to try and use them the way they are and use them up. I'm not going to be dragging this. If you have crappy big ugly cobby ends with just rough pieces of cable sticking out like that and cable clamps, it'll hook in every twig and branch and willow bush and everything. If you're trying to drag this through anybody that's sort of run cable skidders, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You will fight like you never fought. You play yourself out after a couple of skids just dragging this crap through the bush. So you want things as clean and uncomplicated as it gets. You got to keep your riggings well maintained, and well, you don't want these kind of setups like this. Like I say, it's on here, so I'm going to run it. Now, I'm not going to be dragging, in this particular case where I figure I'm going to be cutting, in my cut block or my cut area, I'm not going to be dragging a cable in the brush or through the brush. That's where the little skidder comes in with the grapple. I'm going to be pulling trees up to skid trails or roadside. And then I have long skids where I have to pull for quite a ways, so this is where the big machine will come in. The way I figured, I'll drop my rigging at the main skid trail, and then I can hook on where it's clean, where I'm out of the brush and stuff like that, so it won't be too bad that way. The little skidder will be doing a lot of short bunching and so to speak, where we're going to be hand cutting. So, but anyways, what I'm doing here is I'm going to remove a couple of these tail end chokers off of the end here, and I'm going to be putting a couple of 7-foot chain chokers on here. Now you can run, this is a cable choker setup. Some guys in the big hardwoods in the eastern US and other parts of the world, I know in Europe they use lots of chain chokers. Here they never really caught on because we do a lot of winter logging with heavy snow, and chain chokers you're fighting in the snow, whereas a cable choker you can, if your chokers are in good shape and they're not all kinked up, which is not the case with these. These are, somebody was very rough with them when they were skidding. Watch how they tied their lays, so to speak, or they didn't lay the cable the way it's supposed to be when you hook up your bells. So they've got them hooked any which way. Every time they'd skid, they'd hook them a different way. So you've got all kinds of funky pigtails and kinks in them and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, this is going to be fun to play with or whatever, but I'm going to make do with what I have because these buggers are getting expensive now in any market. Doesn't matter where in the world to buy these cable chokers, or even the chain chokers are getting pretty pricey no matter where you are. So anyways, enough blabbering. I'm going to get on with it here. I'm going to pull these two end ones off. It doesn't hurt to have a couple of chain chokers on your end of your main line. These are going to be the last two slides on the end of my main line, so I'm going to put two 5/16 grade 70 chain chokers on the end, and that way if you get a logging truck that can't get turned around on a landing or just gets a little bit stuck or something, it's always nice to have a couple of high grade or high test chain chokers on the end. You can tie into your main line and give the guy a tug or whatever without wrecking your cable chokers. So that's part of the reason for that, and it's always handy to have a couple of chain chokers on the end for if you got some real big ugly trees or whatever that are going to beat up your cable chokers. It's always nice to have a couple of chain chokers just on the end on the end slides here. I'm not setting up the whole thing that way. I'm going to keep the rest of my cable chokers here. I'm going to pull the rest of those tangled up mess off there, and a couple off the end here, and I'll have half a dozen spares here, so to speak. And what I'm going to do is set this up with two chain chokers, and then I'm going to have maybe 5 or 6 cable chokers for a total of 7 or 8 chokers. That's more than enough. Anything more than that, I always like to keep 1 or 2 spares. Even you don't have to hook a whole load, but the machine, yes, it will handle it no problem, but it's for my ease of getting unhooked on the landing, like I already mentioned. So anyways, we'll bring you back here in a second when I get you set up here again, and I'll show you what I'm doing here as I start taking this apart and setting this up. I don't know how well this is gonna this is how well this is going to work, but I'm just using a pry bar to stick in here to hold this while I'm into the end of the cable here, into this eye, this loop eye that they got here to hold this while I'm taking it apart. I don't know how tight they have that, so what size we got? 9/16? Yeah. Every one of these cable clamps they have, they got small ones, they got big ones, they're all mixed up in different sizes. It's whatever junk somebody had laying around in their hardware, in a bucket of hardware probably. Well, not too bad. Chances are this isn't very tight, so it probably wouldn't have held. It would pop off when you hook onto a good... I'm going to be pulling big green poplar is what I'm going to be pulling, or what I figured to be pulling with it anyways. And that the area that I'm planning on pulling wood out of is kind of on a clay belt or clay flat. So the trees are going to be waterlogged and heavy, which is good. Here in my market, I get paid by the ton. By the ton. I don't get paid by linear board foot. We don't get paid by the cord. We get paid by bulk wood tonnage here. So the more weight, the better. The heavier your wood, the better off you're going to make out. So, like I say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all these cable clamps off, and then I'm going to use. I got some new rigging here. I got some new clevis ends. And I'm going to attach the clevises to these sliders, and then I'm going to attach my choker chains to that. So I'm going to take these two off here, like I say, to put the choker chains on the end. And then I'm up at the other end, I'm going to take that rat's nest of extra chokers off there. I am not going to be removing all my slides, because to remove the slides I'd have to open the end of my main line. And even though it's kind of rough looking what the setup they got on there, it's a good sturdy anchor point on the end. This main line here has got a crimped ferruled end on it, so, and then they've got some big ugly old cable clamps on there to act with, and they got a thick steel modified steel washer there to act as a stop for these slides on the main line when you're pulling. So I will not be removing that whole mess just to get off a few of these slides. It'll be a bit of a pain in the ass to have them on here. It's a little bit extra weight. But if I get rid of half a dozen chokers or so, that frees up a lot of weight off my main line. It's less to have to drag in the bush. Like I say, I'll have a few sliders chasing me or whatever there at the other end, but on the main line. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt to have a couple of a few extra spare slider rings, because these do sometimes break. So if you break one, you can always finish cutting it off and get it off, and then you can still attach. If you have a couple up at the other end, it's okay to have a few extra sliders in on your main line as backups, so to speak. I'm not a big fan of cable skidders. Haven't been for a long time. In this part of the world where I am here, we don't have a lot of gullies or deep valleys or something where you have to winch out of. Only a few swamp holes or something like that where you have bad spots where you don't want to put your machine in, that a cable skidder shines. For the most part, in my area here, everybody's gone to grapple skidders, because everybody's gone to mostly mechanical logging. There's very few hand cutters left in this part of the world where I am here. Most everybody's gone to mechanical harvesting. So you have faller bunchers literally just making bunch piles, and guys pulling with grapple skidders. Doesn't matter if it's an old skidder, new skidder, whatever. Everybody's running grapple skidders here now. Line skidders here are just mostly now firewood cutters that are left doing that. It is what it is, but when I bought this machine, it was a purchase of opportunity. It wasn't based on, I purposely went out and bought a cable skidder. I was trying to avoid cable skidders because there was lots in this area. Everybody cut with cable skidders for up until 15, 20 years ago, and everybody would laugh at you if you had a grapple skidder or you bought a grapple skidder. When we set up that little international machine there as a grapple machine, everybody laughed at me and my dad. They said, "Oh, you guys are nuts. Why are you building a grapple skidder? Nobody's got grapple skidders. Not in this." Everybody knew about them, but they didn't exist in this part of the world. Everybody was running cable machines here. But as time went on, and everybody's seen the benefits of safer work practices of getting off the ground and into a machine, the cable skidder slowly disappeared from the landscape, so to speak. So now I got a fuzzed up end on this damn cable here. There we go. So that's one less. I got my my slide here. Now I got to remove the other one over here. Actually, you know what? I'm actually getting rid of 3 slides on the end. Well, not getting rid of. I'm not going to be using the 1 slide on the end because this one's a real crappy. It's got a real small hole on the slide, and what happens is that one is very poor. I've had those before. I've seen them, used them. I know what they are. What they do is they bite into the main line and they kind of grab and want to kink the main line. I don't like that style. I like the ones with the bigger open throat. They're kind of like a bell end. They slide nice and easy on the main line. Those other buggers, they like to bind up and cause problems. So that one is already on the end. So I will be removing that one. I got to go get another wrench. I'll get that one off, and this one's just going to stay on the end here as a stopper. But I'll be using this one here, and I'll go ahead and pull this other choker here. Again, this is one of those funky setups here with the cable is already right at the end of this. It's almost pulled out. They have hardly any tension on these clamps. So I'm going to have to go through and check all the other ones to see if I can, I don't know if it's going to work, if they're going to stay on here or not. It seems lately a lot of stuff that people have been posting on YouTube or whatever, they get, seem to, no matter what, get attacked or told that you're wrong. And lately I've been somehow inadvertently getting into arguments with people, even when I'm not trying to. Just talking about things of general, my personal experiences. Now, everybody has their own personal experiences. Like I say, that's perfectly fine. You're all entitled to we're all entitled to our own opinions, our own experiences. What works in my world is probably not going to work in your world, and what works in your world probably wouldn't work in my world. I don't know. Sometimes I always thought that by sharing knowledge of what my experiences are and what your experiences are, that you could maybe person can use the best of a little bit of both worlds and modify those thoughts and get the benefit of it. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't seem to see it that way. That's a sad fact of our world these days. Everybody is polarized with their own ideas, and my way is the right way, your way is the wrong way, and so on and so forth. It's sad that it's come to that, but unfortunately it seems to be more and more that way. Doesn't matter if you post a video about chainsaws, working on saws, cutting with saws. I have all kinds of content that I haven't even bothered to upload about working on saws, modifying saws. Right now on YouTube there seems to be such a combative attitude towards each other of, I guess mostly it's just overbloated egos. Everybody seems to get so offended talk about somebody's type of chainsaw bar oil to use. My God, it starts a whole controversy. Don't even talk about the mix oil controversy. I ended up getting into that here a little while back myself without even thinking about it, just mentioning my own personal experiences, and I got attacked for making my views known. I'm not one to back down from a controversy. I guess I don't know when to quit, so I keep pushing back type of thing, but boy, I tell you, it can get ugly in a hurry. Now, a little while back here I went and posted a video about tree cutting style. Well, I'm just telling everybody what I do in my area, what my dad did, what all the other professional loggers in my area did and still do, the ones that are left anyways logging. It's how we done it in our area, and that was, I forget the name of the video, a Humboldt here, a Humboldt there, everywhere, a Humboldt, something like that. A lot of people seem to have taken offense to that. It's because the reason why I said it wasn't to be outwardly controversial or trying to stir up trouble. I just said it as a matter-of-fact statement because that's what everybody in my area here, we don't use that style of cutting. Now, does it work for guys out west or other parts of the world? Sure, they do, and everybody, like I say, is entitled to their own opinions and their own style of cutting, and what works for you where you are probably works best there. What works good for me here is probably what works best for for everybody in my area. That's why we all do what we do in our area, and that's why everybody else does what they do in their area. The fact that everybody gets so angry about simple, just simple day-to-day tasks or whatever, it's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of sad that it's come down to that, but that's where it's at. So, anyways, enough about my little rant. This is coming apart here okay. Get this end out of here. Okay, actually, I'm just going to go get my small angle grinder with a cutting wheel and zip this ball of tangled up mess off the end here so I can just slip it out of there without, I don't have to fight with it. But fact is, I got both of them here taken apart. Like I say, I will continue on with this here. It's getting late in the day, the shadows are getting long. I'm going to finish up here in a little bit here, just get the other one off, and I'm going to call this quits on this. It'll be this will be a multi-evening afternoon. I work on things a little bit here and there when I get a chance, because I've got many other things on the go all over, so that's just how it is in my life. I got a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things to do, so stuff like this or whatever, at the moment it's not a panic, it's not whatchamacallit, it doesn't have to be done right now. It's I do as I have an hour here, a half hour there. It's in front of my workshop. I'm in and out here all the time, and I'm working on stuff, and that's what I do. I got a bunch of other little things on the skidder to work on. So anyways, we're going to continue on here in the, like I said, the next time you see this here, I'm going to be slowly picking away at it, and then I'll show you the end result here when I get it all together.